When an avoidant truly loves you, their walls may be high, their emotional availability may feel limited at times, but their actions are never intentionally cruel. Love, even in someone naturally distant, always leaves traces in behavior. It shows up in subtle attentiveness, in gestures that respect your presence, and in a quiet consideration that lets you know you matter, even without constant words or grand declarations. There's a warmth beneath the caution, a consistent thread of care that speaks louder than any fears or insecurities they carry. But when an avoidant doesn't love you, or when their feelings were never genuine, the difference is undeniable. Suddenly the gestures that once offered reassurance vanish, their attention becomes selective, their care conditional, and their presence unpredictable. The warmth fades, replaced by coldness, emotional distance, and a subtle detachment that is impossible to ignore. You start noticing patterns of neglect, moments where your feelings seem irrelevant, and a general absence of intentionality. Interactions feel transactional, as if every word, every effort, and every connection is measured only against what they gain from it. It's not about misunderstanding or a lack of emotional intelligence. This is deeper than personality quirks or attachment style. It's the unmistakable sign that the emotional investment isn't there. The connection you crave, the subtle validations that signal mutual care, are missing. Conversations may feel one-sided, moments of intimacy may lack depth, and your attempts to create closeness are met with hesitancy or withdrawal. You sense it in the silence between interactions, in the lack of initiative, and in the absence of effort to maintain a bond. Recognizing this truth is difficult, because avoidants are often skilled at masking indifference with charm, occasional warmth, or fleeting attention. They can appear invested in the moment, but remain emotionally distant underneath. Understanding the difference between genuine care and superficial engagement requires reflection, observation, and honest evaluation of consistency over time. At its core, the distinction is simple: someone who truly values you finds ways, small or large, to show it. Someone who doesn't love you will, inevitably, reveal their lack of investment in ways that may feel subtle at first, but are painfully clear when you pay attention. Awareness of this difference allows you to make decisions that protect your heart, honor your needs, and avoid being trapped in emotional absence. Today in this video we're breaking down 5 specific factors that reveal an avoidant is not emotionally invested in you, not committed to you, and not building a future with you. These signs are not about attachment style, they're about lack of love. First factor: when your avoidant partner shows zero respect for the relationship. When your avoidant partner shows zero respect for the relationship, a loving avoidant may struggle with closeness, but they still honor your boundaries, your needs, and the effort you put in. A non-loving avoidant does the opposite, dismissing your emotional reality, undermining your time, and ignoring the energy you invest. You may feel invisible at moments, as if every effort to be acknowledged or understood is futile. Their actions communicate that your presence, your opinions, and your emotions don't carry weight. And this absence of respect slowly erodes the foundation of trust and intimacy. When respect is missing, even small interactions can feel heavy. A simple request might be ignored, plans may be disregarded, or promises left unfulfilled. There is no consideration for your perspective, no effort to meet halfway, and little regard for how their behavior affects you. Over time, this pattern creates frustration, resentment, and a lingering sense of imbalance, leaving you questioning your value in the relationship. You may start doubting yourself, asking why your feelings are dismissed, and why you seem to matter only when convenient. This is not normal relational friction, it is a consistent signal that love is absent in meaningful ways. The absence of respect also manifests in the way disagreements are handled. Instead of constructive conversation, there is avoidance, defensiveness, or subtle invalidation. Your opinions may be minimized, and your attempts to express hurt may be met with indifference or even ridicule. You notice that your emotional labor, the effort to communicate, nurture, or sustain connection, is not reciprocated. In relationships where love is present, even if flawed, effort is recognized and valued. Here there is a striking lack of acknowledgement, leaving a gap that can't easily be filled. On a deeper level, this lack of respect impacts your sense of safety. You might feel hesitant to share your thoughts, fearing dismissal or belittlement. The relational space that should feel supportive and nurturing instead feels tense, draining, and unbalanced. Each interaction subtly reinforces that your boundaries and emotions are negotiable at best, disregarded at worst. The long-term effect is emotional exhaustion and disconnection, making it hard to maintain intimacy or invest freely. If you are noticing these patterns, it is essential to observe without immediately excusing or rationalizing them. Pay attention to how often your boundaries are violated, whether your feelings are consistently disregarded, and how this affects your well-being. Notice if efforts to communicate your needs are met with avoidance or dismissal. Keep a mental or written note of repeated behaviors rather than isolated incidents. Ask yourself whether the relationship consistently uplifts you or leaves you feeling diminished. Understanding the presence or absence of respect will guide your choices and clarify whether this connection is truly nourishing. Ultimately, if you find yourself chronically facing dismissal, indifference, or devaluation, it is crucial to evaluate your limits and consider steps to protect your emotional health. Set clear boundaries, communicate honestly, and observe responses carefully. If respect is consistently lacking, remind yourself that love requires acknowledgement and care, and you deserve to receive it. Recognize the patterns, reflect on your experiences, and take action that honors your well-being, while maintaining clarity about the relationship's true nature.
Second factor.
When your avoidant partner only reaches out when they want something. When your avoidant partner only reaches out when they want something, it becomes evident that the connection is one-sided. Genuine care and love involve mutual engagement, attentiveness, and effort to meet each other's needs. But a partner who appears only when they need comfort, attention, validation, or intimacy is operating out of convenience, not affection. Their presence is conditional, dictated by personal desire rather than a true interest in your well-being. You may notice that messages, calls, or visits are never spontaneous for you. They occur only to satisfy their emotional cravings, leaving your feelings, needs, or requests largely ignored. Over time, this pattern creates a sense of imbalance and frustration. You might find yourself anticipating their contact or feeling uncertain about your place in the relationship. It becomes clear that interactions are transactional. Their engagement is not about reciprocity or shared support, but about extracting emotional energy when convenient. The imbalance erodes trust, undermines security, and fosters a persistent sense of waiting for acknowledgement that rarely arrives. You may begin to question whether your own efforts to reach out, nurture, or connect are valued at all. A lack of reciprocity also shows itself in critical moments. If you are going through a challenge, need reassurance, or seek support, their absence is telling. When love is present, even avoidant individuals make effort to be present in ways they can manage emotionally. Here, though, absence is consistent and purposeful, signaling that your emotional availability matters less than their own convenience. You may notice a pattern where your attempts to share, vent, or communicate are met with minimal responses, deflection, or avoidance, while your partner continues to reach out only on their own terms. The impact of such behavior is more than just inconvenience. It undermines the sense of partnership. Relationships require shared energy, mutual responsibility, and acknowledgement of each person's contributions. When one person consistently prioritizes personal needs over shared care, a subtle imbalance forms, making the bond feel fragile and unfulfilling. Emotional reciprocity is not optional in love, it is foundational. If you are observing this type of behavior, it is important to take note without excusing it. Reflect on how frequently your partner reaches out only for their own benefit, whether your needs are being met, and how it affects your emotional well-being. Keep track of patterns rather than isolated instances, and assess whether the relationship fosters mutual support or leaves you feeling drained and undervalued. Notice if repeated efforts to communicate your needs are met with inconsistency or indifference. Ultimately, if you find that interactions are mostly self-serving on their part, it is essential to evaluate boundaries, prioritize your emotional health, and consider what level of engagement you are willing to tolerate. Healthy relationships are built on reciprocity, mutual care, and consistent presence. Recognize the imbalance, take note of repeated behaviors, and make decisions that protect your heart while maintaining clarity about the relationship's true dynamics. Third factor, when your avoidant partner ignores your hurt completely. When your avoidant partner ignores your hurt completely, it becomes a clear indicator that their emotional investment is lacking. While avoidance may naturally struggle with processing deep emotions, a partner who genuinely cares still finds ways to acknowledge your pain, validate your feelings, and offer support within their capacity. A non-loving avoidant, however, watches silently as your distress unfolds, withdraws further, or acts as if nothing significant is happening. The subtle and overt signals of your heartbreak, tears, frustration, or vulnerability fail to register with them. Instead of responding with empathy, they create distance, leaving your emotions unacknowledged and your needs unmet. Over time, this pattern can be deeply destabilizing. You may feel unseen, unheard, and emotionally isolated despite being in a committed relationship. Attempts to communicate your hurt or ask for support may be dismissed, minimized, or met with silence. Moments that should foster intimacy and closeness instead highlight the absence of care, leaving you questioning the sincerity of their feelings. This consistent indifference erodes trust and leaves a lingering emotional void. The pain of being ignored compounds, not only because your suffering is invalidated, but also because the person closest to you, the one who should offer safety and understanding, is unavailable emotionally. The lack of response to your emotional needs also manifests in smaller, everyday interactions. They may avoid discussing conflicts, evade accountability, or refuse to engage in conversations that require vulnerability. Your expressions of distress may be met with irritability, detachment, or even subtle dismissiveness. In relationships where love exists, even avoidants find ways to bridge the emotional gap. Here, however, your attempts to share, vent, or seek reassurance are consistently met with a wall of indifference. This creates a painful pattern where emotional labor falls disproportionately on you, leaving you feeling drained and unvalued. Recognizing this behavior is essential because repeated emotional neglect signals a lack of genuine commitment. Emotional availability is not a bonus in love, it is fundamental. If your emotional expressions consistently fall on deaf ears, it is a strong sign that your partner's heart is not fully engaged. Pay attention to the consistency of their responses. Do they attempt to comfort, validate, or be present even in small ways? Or do they repeatedly retreat, leaving your feelings unresolved? If you notice that your pain is ignored or dismissed, it is crucial to take note. Observe the pattern without excusing the behavior, document how often your feelings are disregarded, and reflect on how it impacts your emotional health. Ask yourself if the relationship provides mutual support or perpetually leaves you isolated. Evaluate whether repeated emotional neglect is affecting your self-worth, and consider establishing boundaries to protect yourself. Ultimately, if you are chronically experiencing indifference to your hurt, it is important to prioritize your well-being. Recognize that love involves acknowledgement, care, and responsiveness, and you deserve a partner who can meet you emotionally, even imperfectly. Take note of repeated patterns, reflect on their implications, and make choices that safeguard your heart and maintain clarity about the relationship's authenticity. Fourth factor, when your avoidant partner grows more distant over the years. When your avoidant partner grows more distant over the years, it signals that the relationship lacks the emotional depth and commitment necessary for a lasting bond. In relationships where love exists, even avoidants gradually soften, learn to trust, and become more secure with their partner over time. Their walls may remain, but their care, attentiveness, and willingness to share life's moments increase. With genuine affection, challenges and misunderstandings are met with compromise, patience, and effort to maintain closeness. Growth occurs naturally because love motivates investment, adaptation, and a desire to maintain connection. However, when love is absent, the opposite pattern emerges. Gradually, subtle changes in behavior become pronounced. Conversations become shorter or less frequent. Affection diminishes, not because of temporary stress, but as a steady pattern over months or years. Shared moments feel transactional or hollow, and the emotional space between you widens. The partner who once engaged with your thoughts, shared laughter, or invested attention now retreats, creating a sense of growing isolation. This slow fading of closeness is often imperceptible at first, but becomes undeniable over time, leaving you questioning the health and direction of the relationship. As the distance increases, you may notice emotional intimacy eroding, vulnerability is no longer met with care or interest, and attempts to discuss feelings may be ignored or deflected. Shared plans and life events feel less relevant to them, and their engagement with your life gradually diminishes. Instead of building memories, the relationship becomes a series of disconnected interactions where you coexist rather than connect. The absence of progressive closeness, mutual understanding, or shared growth points to a partner who is emotionally withdrawing rather than investing. This pattern can create confusion and self-doubt. You might wonder if the fading connection is temporary, if you are the cause, or if the relationship can be revived. However, consistent emotional withdrawal over time is a sign that love is not the driving force behind their behavior. It is important to differentiate between natural fluctuations in closeness, which occur in all relationships, and a steady decline where your needs, presence, and emotional significance are no longer prioritized. Recognizing the trajectory allows you to see the reality of the connection more clearly. If you are observing increasing distance, take note of how often they withdraw from meaningful interactions, whether emotional engagement is avoided, and how their absence affects your sense of security and belonging. Pay attention to whether attempts to reconnect are met with effort or continued detachment. Keep a mental or written record of these behaviors rather than dismissing them as temporary. Reflect on whether the relationship is supporting your emotional growth or leaving you isolated. Ultimately, if you consistently experience widening emotional gaps, it is crucial to protect your heart and prioritize your well-being. Recognize that love seeks closeness, even imperfectly, and that ongoing withdrawal indicates a lack of investment. Note patterns carefully, set boundaries when necessary, and take steps to ensure that your emotional needs are honored. Understand that you deserve a partner whose presence strengthens rather than diminishes your sense of connection, and use these observations to guide decisions that preserve your emotional health. Fifth factor, when your avoidant partner's communication feels dead and one-sided. When your avoidant partner's communication feels dead and one-sided, it reflects a profound lack of engagement in the relationship. In a loving partnership, even if one partner is naturally distant, there is an effort to participate in dialogue, share thoughts, and contribute to mutual understanding. Communication becomes a bridge, imperfect at times, but consistently maintained to nurture connection. Messages, calls, and conversations are not only about logistics, they carry emotional presence, attention, and care. Even when busy or stressed, a loving avoidant makes space to show up, to respond, and to signal that the relationship matters. However, when love is missing, the dynamic shifts drastically. One partner becomes the sole holder of the relationship, initiating contact, maintaining plans, and carrying the weight of emotional labor, while the other retreats into silence. Responses may be minimal, delayed, or lacking substance. Conversations feel flat, mechanical, or transactional. There is no curiosity about your day, no effort to engage meaningfully, and no investment in sustaining emotional connection. The imbalance creates frustration, as one person's energy fuels the relationship, while the other remains largely absent. This isn't about occasional inattentiveness, it's a pattern of neglect, where communication exists only when convenient, or when it serves their needs. The emotional impact of one-sided communication is significant. You may feel unheard, unseen, and undervalued. Your thoughts, feelings, and experiences are met with minimal acknowledgement, leaving you questioning the worth of your contributions. Over time, the relationship may feel like a constant effort with little reciprocation, and the emotional gap widens. Even attempts to address this imbalance can be met with defensiveness, indifference, or avoidance, reinforcing the sense that the connection is not mutual. This lack of engagement signals that emotional absence has replaced genuine care. A partner who values you will make the effort to maintain dialogue, share experiences, and demonstrate interest in your life. When these efforts are absent consistently, it is a clear indication that the relationship is not supported by true investment. The absence of meaningful communication erodes intimacy, weakens trust, and leaves you carrying a burden that should be shared. If you notice these patterns, observe the consistency of their responses, the depth of their engagement, and how your attempts to connect are received. Take note of whether communication is only initiated by you or if your efforts are met with effort, even if small. Reflect on whether interactions leave you feeling fulfilled, heard, and emotionally supported, or whether they drain you. Maintaining awareness allows you to understand the reality of the connection and to distinguish between temporary lapses and chronic emotional absence. Ultimately, if you find that the relationship is consistently one-sided, it is essential to prioritize your emotional well-being. Set boundaries around communication, note recurring patterns, and ensure your needs for engagement, recognition, and care are met. either within the relationship or by redirecting your energy elsewhere. Recognize that love seeks reciprocity, and consistent imbalance indicates a lack of true investment. By paying attention to these signs, you protect your heart, maintain clarity, and make informed decisions about whether the partnership serves your emotional growth. Now that you've seen these 5 factors, it's time to reflect honestly on your relationship. Ask yourself, are you constantly the one giving, initiating, and holding the connection together? Do you feel your emotions are acknowledged, or do they bounce off a wall of indifference? Are your boundaries consistently respected, or do you feel dismissed and invisible? Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward protecting your heart and creating space for relationships that actually value you. It's easy to make excuses, to convince yourself it's just their personality or they're emotionally unavailable, but repeated patterns of neglect, lack of respect, and one-sided effort are not quirks, they are signals that love in the way you deserve is absent. Being aware of this doesn't mean giving up hope, it means giving yourself clarity. You have the right to be treated with care, consistency, and respect. You deserve a partner who invests emotionally, communicates openly, and shows up for you even when it's inconvenient. Start taking notes. Observe the behaviors, reflect on your feelings after interactions, and identify moments where your needs are consistently ignored or minimized. This awareness will help you make conscious choices about the relationship, rather than being caught in cycles of hope and disappointment. Setting boundaries, voicing your needs, and noticing their responses is not selfish, it's necessary for your emotional well-being. Remember, love requires effort. If effort is missing repeatedly, it is not love, it is emotional absence. You have the power to step back, protect your energy, and seek the connection you deserve. Don't settle for patterns that drain you or diminish your worth. If you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more relationship insights, and comment below with your experiences. Share your thoughts, your story might help someone else recognize the truth and make empowered choices.